Biofuel is a fuel that is process or that is produced through contemporary biological process. अब देखो, even coal is something that was prepared through, in its preparation also some biological process was required, photosynthesis and all was required, right? But it is not contemporary. Coal जो बना है उसमें photosynthesis may have happened millions of years ago, and then other factors were involved, high temperature, pressure, etc., to convert that fuel into coal. So that's not a biofuel, but something that is produced, that fuel that is produced through contemporary biological process. Usme you may have something like cow dung cake. Cow dung cake is something जो अभी के biological process से बना है, और wood which is burned, organic waste which is dried and converted into coal-like substances and burned with thermal power plant, वो सब are kind of biofuels. They may all not be clean, please understand. Burning cow dung cake is not clean, but that same cow dung when converted into biogas will be considered cleaner. So biogas is a biofuel that is derived from contemporary biological process. Right. Now, biofuel can be categorized into three categories. First generation, second generation, third generation. Important three categories, but there are fourth, fifth category also. First generation biofuels are those biofuels that are produced through food crops, which are produced through food crops, which may be wheat, sugar, vegetable oil, even animal fat. The biofuel generated from this is first generation. Why? Because from food which has carbohydrate in it, which has fat in it, generating fuel is very easy. So it includes simple tech, and thus it is cost competitive when compared to fossil fuel. This is its advantage. But it has some criticism also, because food is getting converted into fuel. So there is food security versus energy security wala debate. So the first generation biofuels are also known as conventional biofuels and includes biodiesel. Biodiesel is something that you will get from vegetable oil. Biodiesel is something that you'll get from vegetable oil. Both edible and non-edible oil by after esterification may give you biodiesel. Then bioethanol. Bioethanol is something that you get from fermentation of sugar-containing products. So, in fact, of all the biofuel that we have, 2/3 of the biofuel is the bioethanol only. Then biogas. Biogas is produced through anaerobic respiration of anaerobic fermentation of organic waste. When it happens organically, what is produced? Directly CO2 would be produced. But when it happens, when it happens in the presence of oxygen, what will be produced? CO2 will be produced. But when it happens, when the respiration happens in the presence of oxygen, what will be in the absence of oxygen? What will be happening? Methane will be produced, and methane is the main constituent of biogas. Right. Second generation biofuels are produced from non-food crops. They say, suppose you have some wood material, or you have organic waste, food crop waste, specific bio. So the stubble that you are left with, that is, if you're using that to convert it into fuel, that is second generation biofuel. If you use rice to convert it into fuel, that is first generation biofuel. But वो rice का stubble, it is not food for us. If you use that to convert into fuel, it is second generation biofuel. तो advantage यहाँ पे क्या है? We can use wasteland for it. It has less impact on food security, but there are some challenges, some limitations here. जैसे this will be requiring advanced technologies, and thus capital cost is high. Advanced technology that is required is also very advanced and is not easily available. One well-known second generation technology is lignocellulosic processing, which uses forest material. Like lignocellulosic material, जो फॉरेस्ट का वेस्ट है, वुड वगैरह है, उसको बायोफ्यूल में कन्वर्ट करना would be one example of second generation biofuel. In third generation biofuel, we use microorganisms like algae. They also consist of carbon only. है ना? Third generation biofuel में we'll be using microorganisms like algae because they are very efficient in converting biomass. They take energy and convert it into biomass. See, a tree may also be taking energy from sun, but not all of it is getting converted into biomass because it has to regulate a lot of other things. But algae doesn't have to do a lot of other things. So algae can very easily convert a lot of energy into biomass, lot of sunlight into biomass, and that biomass can thus be used for biofuel production. That will be third generation biofuel. Then in fourth generation, we use biotechnology. Suppose the same algae, we genetically modify it so that it starts producing more biomass, and then that biomass is converted into fuel. Is fourth generation biofuel. In fifth generation biofuel, we use electricity. So they are also known as electrofuels. They are produced from microbial synthesis using renewable energy sources. So here we supply electricity. In this process, microorganisms use electricity as an energy source to convert carbon dioxide into liquid fuel such as ethanol and butanol. So see what happens in photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, plants use sunlight as source of energy and convert CO2 into carbohydrate. Here, microorganisms will be provided energy through electricity. They'll use that electricity to convert carbon dioxide into some kind of fuel. This is fifth generation biofuel. Fourth generation, fifth generation, abhi bhi are in the early stages of development, and it is primarily first generation, second generation that we are using in India. Most of the fuel that we are using is first generation. We will see biogas to be used, ethanol being used, and some of it that we're using is second generation. Under G1 mission and all, we have invested in generation of second generation biofuel also. So why growth of biofuel sector in India? The spurt in ethanol production in India is almost entirely policy driven. That is, it was government efforts which is making biofuel production increase in the country. Why do we need to promote biofuel? एक तो वो renewable है, renewable के अपने advantages है ना. It will ensure energy security, it will reduce our import dependency and all. It can also help us in fighting pollution. Why or how will it help us in fighting pollution? When ethanol is blended with diesel and petrol, उसका कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड एमिशन रिड्यूस हो जाता है. इन द सेम वे बायोगैस इज मच बेटर देन काउडंग केक. काउडंग केक जब हम बर्न करते वी नो हाउ पोल्यूटिंग इट इज, बट व्हेन इट इज processed into biogas, gas is not polluting. Biofuel help in moving towards newer vehicle emission targets. BS4 से हमें BS6 में जाना है. Biofuel, because they are less polluting in nature, तो उनका emission will be lesser and thus can easily meet those targets. Reduction in greenhouse gases. A report by Niti Aayog quotes potential reduction of greenhouse gas emission at the point of use, that is from the tailpipe of the vehicle. You will ask कि सर अच्छा पहले ऐसे समझो कि ग्रीन हाउस गैस कैसे रिड्यूस हो जाएगा. यू विल से कि सर यहाँ पे भी तो यू आर इवेंचुअली बर्निंग, eventually CO2 is being emitted. So how is greenhouse gas reduction happening? So first of all, understand this. First, CO2 is being absorbed. Then that CO2 is being released. First, by photosynthesis, CO2 is being absorbed. Then you will say, sir, the same argument is also valid on burning trees. No, in trees, for many years, they have kept on absorbing CO2. And when you destroy them, work of many years goes away in a few days. Whereas when it comes to plants, agricultural crops, which you have specifically used for fuel generation, here you are using CO2. Plants are absorbing CO2 and they are creating carbohydrate that you are using for what purpose? That you are using for, again, adding CO2 into environment by producing energy. So as such, addition nahi hota hai. Whereas when you burn coal, for millions of years that CO2 was blocked there. Now you have added it in the atmosphere and now it's not going back there. Whereas in biofuel, it will be the CO2 that you have added. Again, when you're growing biofuels, will be absorbed. So in this way, CO2 absorption is lesser. It also has lesser impact on climate change, can promote sustainable agriculture. Now, how will it promote sustainable agriculture? Because agriculture ka demand, agricultural products ka demand would increase. They'll be able to earn more money. Sugarcane producers are earning more money because of demand for ethanol. Increase farmers' income. Sanitation. Sanitation kaise? Human waste, animal waste, excreta. Rather than being dumped idhar-udhar, it can go to biogas plants where what can happen? Methane can be produced or natural gas, biogas can be produced, and the waste that is left is rich in nutrients and is much lesser in quantity. It can be used in agricultural field. Social impact. It can reduce the drudgery of women. For example, जिन घरों में हम लकड़ियां यूज करते हैं खाना बनाने के लिए, there women travel long distances to collect those wood. If animal waste, etc., is converted into biogas, it can reduce the load on women for those waste collection. Then it reduce import dependency and saves foreign exchange. वो तो renewable वाले advantages हैं ही, वो है. But there are some criticism. एक है land use change. For producing biofuel in different parts of the country and world also, we are making changes in the land use. जहाँ पे we are growing sugar cane or we are growing other things. जैसे sugar cane based ethanol in Brazil is creating problems. Food security issues are there. The argument that only surplus sugarcane and rice are diverted to fuel production may not hold in the longer term. जैसे world में land is limited, population is increasing, food demand will increase. As food demand increase, what happens? The chances that this first generation biofuel will be used for the food crops will be used for first generation biofuel, it will be much lesser. Then water challenges. Sugarcane and all, they also consume a lot of water, and water scarcity has been a major issue. So there are some negatives also. Now, to promote biofuel, government has taken several initiatives. There is national policy on biofuel, which was launched in 2018. We'll talk about this policy. In this policy, there is emphasis on both first generation biofuel and second generation biofuel. Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana is specifically focused on second generation bio. जैसे जो national policy on biofuel है ना, उसमें ये बोला गया है कि second generation biofuel develop करने के लिए भी government incentives देगी. तो government incentive कहाँ दे रही है? Through this योजना. In this yojana, government is helping industries which are developing second generation biofuel. Second generation biofuel बनाना expensive है. Second generation biofuel needs advanced technologies, and the businesses may not find it affordable, may not find it suitable. So under Jeevan Mission, government is providing those benefits. Then oil, central public sector enterprises are also setting up 2G biorefineries in the country at different parts. Ethanol blending program has been running in India for more than 20 years now. In this, in petrol, what is blended? Ethanol. Ethanol is added. Now the target is that by 2025, we will have all our petrol with 20% ethanol blending. So this is also increasing the demand for biofuel in the country. National Bioenergy Program was launched in 2021. It is supposed to be run between 2021-22, that is FY22, FY26, in 2 phases. It will have these 3 schemes where waste to energy पे फोकस है. ना व्हाट इज वेस्ट टू एनर्जी? वेस्ट टू एनर्जी इज आपका जो म्युनिसिपल वेस्ट जा रहा है, उसमें जो बर्नेबल चीजें हैं, जो हाई एनर्जी वाली चीजें हैं, दैट कैन बी बर्न टू प्रोड्यूस एनर्जी. तो यहाँ पे देखिए, a program on energy from urban industrial and agricultural waste residue to support setting up of large biogas, bio-CNG and power plants, excluding municipal solid waste to power projects. तो municipal solid waste to power project को छोड़ के बाकी सारे power plants, the waste can be converted into biogas, the waste can be converted into bio-CNG, or the waste can be burned into power plants. This would happen. Biomass program है. Biomass program में the mass will be converted into briquettes and pellets. तो छोटे छोटे solid substances में convert होंगे, and they will be used as fuel to support setting up of pellet and briquette for use in power generation and non-bagasse based power generation projects. Then there is biogas program to support setting up family and medium biogas plants in rural India. So this is also something that's happening under what? That's happening under National Bioenergy Program, which is running right now. Most of the programs are running right now. तो हमसे पूछा जाए ना, गवर्नमेंट क्या क्या इनिशिएटिव्स ले रही है? गवर्नमेंट ये इनिशिएटिव्स ले रही है. Then we also have advisory to car makers to introduce flexible fuel engines in vehicles. Flexible fuel engine कैसे? मतलब they may be able to use petrol, diesel, or they may be able to use biofuel. So come up with that so that in future more biofuel will be usable. Then international collaboration and global biofuel alliance is one of the top priorities under India's G20 presidency. Was one of the top priorities of India's G20 presidency. Global biofuel alliance has been announced now. So several such measures have been taken. What needs to be done? We're saying that the proposed expansion of 1G biofuel need to think about broader land use strategies by developing clear and detailed criteria for identifying land suitable for energy crop. That is, identify the land which will be used. You should not be using that land which may be used for agriculture. You should not be using that land which is very crucial for biodiversity protection. Keep that in mind. Second, for 2G biofuel, locate the industries near feedstock availability. Where 2G का raw material available है, वहां पे ही पास में industries रखो, and we need to do more R&D. Scope for this for the schemes like Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana needs to be expanded. Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana is trying to incentivize 2G by subsidizing investment in research and development, by subsidizing factory opening in this area. This needs to be intensified. This needs to be increased. India also need to develop alternative feedstock for biodiesel production. That is, biodiesel में अभी हम जो raw material use कर रहे हैं, that is very limited. We need to expand that, and millions of tons of used cooking oil can be channelized here. Cooking oil, जैसे oil होता है ना, it should not be used multiple times in cooking because it's harmful for your health. But that used cooking oil, if channelized properly, if collected properly, can be used as biofuel. It can be converted into biodiesel and all. आपने in Diwali, you must have seen ghee being used for diya or तेल being used for making diya. Means it's a fuel. तेल is something that we eat also. Sarso tel is something that we eat, or ghee is something that we eat, but it can also be acting as a fuel. So it can be processed to convert it into something useful. तो अब खाने वाली चीजें नहीं, but जो waste हो गया है, hotels and all, they must be using a lot of this oil. So that is also, that's something can be beneficial. Ethanol blending क्या होता है? Ethanol blending is mixing of ethanol with petrol. India में ethanol blending 2001 में हुआ, and it was first mentioned beginning 2001 में हुआ, but it was first officially mentioned under auto fuel policy in 2003. Why ethanol blending? Ethanol blending reduces vehicular emission. जैसे carbon monoxide emission reduces drastically. It is cheaper than petrol as it is easier to manufacture. Ethanol basically sugarcane से बन जाएगा. It's easier to manufacture and thus is cheaper, and it reduces the overall cost of fuel also there. Then it also reduces India's import dependency. Ethanol, so we can produce a lot of ethanol at our own. Ethanol has higher octane rating than ethanol-free petrol. Octane rating leads to what? Octane rating, higher octane rating means it will be more stable. There will be less chances of accidents. There will be less chances of accidents in the industry, in the vehicle. In case of India, ethanol production can generate higher sugarcane prices for farmers also. So there are many advantages of ethanol blending. Abhi under ethanol blending program, we in 2003 we aimed at 5% blending of molasses-based ethanol with petrol, but now the target is 20% by 2025. अच्छा ये ना 20% by 2030 है, इसको भी हमने अपडेट कर दिया है. It's 20% by 2000. हाँ 20% by 2025. ये हम आते हैं नीचे. We'll talk about policy where amendment has been done, which is 20% by 2025.